Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fastbreak report here, bringing you guys another vlog. It's been a while. So I gave you guys a couple days to ask some questions. I figured I'd take a couple, a little bit longer with this one, just to get everything in. Questions are pretty much over at this point. So this is the Q&A video. A lot of people sent a lot of questions. A vast majority of them are Pacers related. I'm actually shocked. I didn't have really any people asked about me. Pretty much all of them are about the Pacers, and some of these I can't even answer because they were a little bit before the time I became an actual Pacers fan. So we'll go through them. There's really not a bunch of them. I'm gonna go through them and read them, and I guess whatever ones I think are the best are the ones that I'm gonna answer. So let's go ahead and get into it. I also have a community post I made about this as well, and some people asked some questions on that too, so let's go to posts. We'll go here. Yeah, I've got well over 30 questions, so I'm not going to answer all of them, but I will answer the ones that I think are probably best. Or the ones that I think you guys are probably most interested in hearing. So let's go back. So this one's about the Bucks. The first one from Ace Dragon 2947 says, "What do you think about the Bucks this season? What seed do you think they'll be at? Do you think they have a chance to make a run for a championship?" So do I think they have the chance to make a run at a championship? Maybe. I mean, on a normal year in the East, no. I don't even think the Bucks are that good of a team, especially now that Damian Lillard's gone. Adding Miles Turner does bring a dynamic to that team that they've really already had in Brook Lopez. So it's just Miles Turner's younger, but provides the same thing. I think they'll be a playoff team. Do I think they're going to win a championship, though? No. Even if they do make the NBA Finals, they're going to get beat by whoever they play in the finals. I hate to say that, but the Bucks are in a shitty position. Maybe they will pull some strings and get some better talent in there. They did bring back Kevin Porter Jr., which I think was a smart move. I think they also brought back Gary Trent Jr. Brook Lopez left, but they brought in Miles Turner. The problem is there hasn't been enough change in their roster for me to look at them and go, there's something significantly better than they were last year. I would actually argue, granted, Damian Lillard's not playing. Damian Lillard is no longer a Buck, but without Damian Lillard, that team I think is significantly worse than what it was, pre-Damian Lillard injury. You got to understand, Damian Lillard played very well for them this past year, and they were still, let's see, we'll go to summary. With Damian Lillard, the Milwaukee Bucks were, what the fuck is there? Oh, this is conference standings. But even with Damian Lillard, they finished, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. They finished as the 5th seed in the East. With Damian Lillard, they finished behind us. So I don't see how they're going to be a better team without Damian Lillard. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I expect Detroit to finish ahead of them. I expect Orlando to finish ahead of them, and maybe even Atlanta. I understand we're a good team, but Desmond Bane getting added to Orlando is a big deal. Atlanta getting Kristaps Porzingis could be a big deal. We don't really know, Miami did get Norman Powell. So, Indiana and Milwaukee are going to be two teams. Even Boston might fall off a little bit. There's certain teams that are going to move up and teams that are going to move down in the playoff standings this year. Do I think the Pacers and Bucks will still make the playoffs? Or, yeah, maybe as a play-in. I have to see what the Pacers put down first, at the point guard position. I got to see how this is all going to go, because Tyrese Halliburton is the engine of the car, but it's just the idea, yeah. I don't think Milwaukee's going to be as good as they were last year, and they were only a 48-win team last year, so yeah, the Bucks, I don't know. They'll probably still be a playoff team, but it ain't super hopeful. You know what I'm saying? Next one is from KJP 2 or YR2YW. I don't even know. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the end of that. But it says, I know you talk about how you're from New York, and I was wondering what made you a fan of the Pacers since there's a rivalry between the Knicks and the Pacers. This is a question. This is easily the most asked question I get, and I get this question all the time. Like OGs know this story at this point. I've told it in the Discord before. If you're not in the Discord, I think channel memberships are like $1, like $1.99. It gets you access to the Discord server. I might open it up again at the start of the NBA season, but that's something that I'm a little cautious about. For one reason, but I guess I have a bunch of mods. I guess it's not a really big deal, but yeah, I think it's like $1, get you into the Discord, and you get to interact with me a little, not so much in the off season, but during the regular season when the Pacers are playing. Yeah, I'm in there all the time talking to you guys. But I became a Pacers fan because of LeBron James. I am not at the time. Okay, I was not a huge LeBron James fan. I was arguably a LeBron James hater. I don't think I ever hated any player as much as I hated LeBron James when I was in high school. And I know, like, you guys think I don't like Miles Turner. Trust me, back in the day, LeBron James, like, I hated his guts. Because he went to Miami, he left Cleveland. I was a LeBron James fan, by the way, ex-LeBron fan. But when he went to Miami, I thought it was the weakest move I had ever seen a superstar do. Especially because Chris Bosh went there and Dwayne Wade took less money so they could go there. It just seemed like instead of, weathering the storm and because like up until this point, I don't think anybody really, like, I'm not to say nobody ever did it, you know what I'm saying? But nobody ever did it. Like, nobody ever saw, like, a guy of LeBron James' stature leave a place specifically to go win, right? And before him, guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, right? Like, people always went to them. So the idea that LeBron James was leaving to go play with Dwayne Wade, who, by the way, had already won a championship by this point and was arguably a top 10 player in the league. So was Chris Bosh at the time, believe it or not. Chris Bosh had stats that you could argue was a top 10 player in the league at that point as well. So to leave Cleveland and go to Miami and team up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and then get Ray Allen and everybody as well, as time went on, it just seemed like the weakest move I had ever seen a superstar player make, especially of a guy of LeBron James' stature. I was like, LeBron James was so good that I was like, he's a guy that people should be going to. He shouldn't be going to them. And, obviously KD did something very similar in the future, just to end up beating LeBron James. But to me, KD and LeBron James have two of the most bitch-made moves I've ever seen in my life. As a fan of the sport. I understand he's not like the first person really to ever do that, but at the same time, just my problem with the move was the idea that the status LeBron James had already established as a superstar player in the league, like the best player in the league, and for him to leave Cleveland and go to Miami, to me, just seemed like a very, very spineless move, And the one team that seemed to give LeBron James the most problems in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference was always the Pacers. And then they drafted Paul George. Paul George was a guy that I followed at Fresno State for a long time. I actually really liked his game. I thought he was going to be a really good player, and it seemed like nobody was talking about him. And then the idea that he got drafted to the Pacers as well was just the icing on the cake. I loved Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel was a guy that I still to this day think he deserves to have a head coaching job. If the NBA wasn't so up-tempo and people actually cared about playing a half-court offense and defense, Frank Vogel's your guy. Frank Vogel was so good at his job that he was able to get everybody on the Pacers to buy into a system. And then, on top of it, you had Roy Hibbert, you had Lance Stevenson, David West. I remember C.J. Watson, like Luis Scola, Lavoy Allen, Rodney Stuckey. Let's not talk about Rodney Stuckey. But Like the Evan Turner trade, like trading Danny Granger for Evan Turner, to me just seemed like a fucking idiot move, especially at a time where Danny Granger had dedicated his entire life to the Pacers. And the 1 year that they're making a run, like the year after, I think he was with us in the playoffs for the first time. And then the following year, we were really good again, and then we traded him for Evan Turner, and it just fucked up the team chemistry. Like, anybody who paid attention to the Pacers back in that time knows that the Danny Granger trade was like a curse on top of a curse. You know what I'm saying? Like, Lance Stevenson didn't like Evan Turner so much that he would come out of games after that trade and, like, he would go stand in the tunnel. He wouldn't even sit with the fucking team. Like, that's how irritated and how fractured the team chemistry was after that trade. And then the team just kind of fell apart. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could tell the team had lost a step after we traded Danny Granger. And, like, any pizzazz that the team really had after they traded Danny Granger, probably the best vet they had, seemed like it didn't matter anymore. It just seemed like they lost a piece that they would never regain no matter how hard they tried. And so that's how I became a Pacers fan, is because my cousin was a huge LeBron James fan. Once he went to Miami, my cousin became an even bigger asshole about LeBron. So, like, for me, naturally, I just kind of gravitated towards the Pacers. It really had nothing to do with the Knicks, and more so to do with LeBron James and his move, and my cousin, and me constantly taking bets against my cousin and fucking losing. Thank you, Pacers, for that. I think I've bought my cousin more basketball jerseys than I want to admit. But it's just the idea, yeah. That was like the whole way I became a Pacers fan, was just like the stars just kind of aligned to the sense that it's like the Indiana Pacers are like the only team that give this motherfucker a problem, so I want to be a Pacers fan, and that's kind of how I ended up there. So that's how I became a Pacers fan. Now you know. Virgo Life 8832 asks, do you think the Pacers are better off without Miles Turner? Yes, I do. I know it's an unpopular opinion. You know, some people understand where I'm coming from, some people don't. But I do think the Pacers, in the long run, like, yeah, the short term is going to be painful. But we don't have a star player in the short term either. So I'm not expecting great things out of the Pacers this year. I actually understand why Miles left. I completely understand why he left. I understand he needed to leave, I think, for this team to get better and like the end result to be better. But I also understood that the front office kind of did him dirty. Regardless of what you think about Miles Turner, regardless of what I think about Miles Turner, I think I'm like one of Miles Turner's biggest haters. Okay, I've dubbed that moniker as Miles Turner's biggest hater. I think the front office gave him an offer that was embarrassing. And I think it was more so them worried about the luxury tax than paying him what he was worth. And so Miles Turner leaving, yeah, while I understand he left on terms that he felt disrespected, I also understand that this was in the short term it sucks, but in the long run it was the move that needed to be made. So you know what? I have no hard feelings about it. I'm glad Miles Turner's gone because it finally gives us the ability to like find a center that can fucking rebound and be physical and do what we need out of a center. I in no way thought Miles Turner was a bad player. I just thought he didn't fit what we were trying to do. Or not fit what we were trying to do, but he didn't fill the void that we needed him to fill. And so, like, you know, good player, bad team. Like, that's how I feel about Miles Turner. That's how I've always felt about Miles Turner. Good player, bad team. He's just a good player in the wrong situation. Not even a bad team. He's just a good player in the wrong situation. So, yes, I do think the Pacers will be better off without Miles Turner in the long run. It will work out. How did you choose? Okay, I kind of answered this. How did I become a Falcons fan? I guess I'll answer part of this question. It says, N Marshall 5378 asks, how do you choose being fans of sports teams like the Pacers and the Falcons while being from New York? And if you don't follow the sports, who are your teams in hockey and baseball? And if I do follow. So in baseball, I'm a Yankees fan. Sorry, guys, I'm from New York. You know, I don't watch baseball much anymore since Derek Jeter retired. Alex Rodriguez was actually my favorite Yankee. But I grew up in the era of like Jorge Posada, Hideki Matsui, Changmeng Wang, Joba Chamberlain, you know, Derek Jeter. I grew up in Mark Teixeira, Nick Swisher, right? Like, I grew up in the era of those guys, and once Derek Jeter retired, I just stopped caring about baseball. I was just like, you know what? Like, all the guys I liked on that team are gone. Aaron Judge is likable. I will say that. Like, he's really good, so that makes him likable, but I just can't get back into it the way that I used to be. And how I became a Falcons fan is I just like their logo, and I was a huge fan of Julio Jones. I thought Julio Jones was like the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL, and I would watch this dude play, and I felt like every time I watched the Falcons play, this dude would just fucking ball. And I'm like, yo, like, I became a Julio Jones fan, and kind of just decided that the Falcons were my football team. My dad, I grew up a Giants fan. The Giants are like my second team. But I just got tired of stagnation. You know, the Giants did win a Super Bowl in my lifetime. They won a couple of them. But I just got tired. I wasn't a fan of Eli Manning. I wasn't a fan of the front office not addressing the issues with the team, like the offensive line being fucking dreadful. It was really Eli Manning. I kind of hated how New Yorkers thought Eli Manning was like fucking great, and I just thought he was painfully fucking average, and everybody looked at him like he was like the Messiah. But that's kind of how New Yorkers treat athletes. Like, if you win a ring in New York, like, you don't got to pay for a meal anywhere you go in New York City. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you come to New York and you win a ring, you get the treatment. You feel me? Like, you get the treatment. You know, you walk into places, like, being rich doesn't matter anymore. You walk into any place, if they know who you are and you brought a championship to this city, your meal is on the house. You know what I'm saying? You probably walk into an Apple store and they'd be like, yeah, just take the fucking iPhone. You don't even got to pay for it. You know? Like, that's the type of treatment you get in New York when you win a ring. So, Eli Manning is like God here. It's fucking insane. If you had to choose your personal all-time Pacers starting five, who would it be? I have a good feeling I know who won't be the center. Okay. So, obviously Tyrese, Reggie Miller, Paul George. I am going to throw Jermaine O'Neal in there, I think, at power forward. You could talk about George. You could argue George McGinnis or whoever. That's an argument as well. Clark Kellogg's a guy too you could probably talk about, but center probably Rick Smits. Roy Hibbert was very good. Roy Hibbert was very good. He just shit himself in the playoffs. You could make a argument for both. Rick Smits was better. I think I don't even know really. Like, Rick Smits was a little bit before my time. Actually a lot before my time, but Roy Hibbert was good. Roy Hibbert was a really good player. He just shit himself in the playoffs, and if I had to, because he shit himself in the playoffs, I'm not willing to give him that nod. You can't play a game where you score 0 points and then expect me to put you in the all-time starting five. So I gotta give it to Rick Smits. So that's my Pacers all-time starting five. I'd probably throw Victor Oladipo in there, Sabonis, Danny Granger, some honorable mentions. If we're talking about going to the bench unit. But there's a lot of guys that I like the Pacers had that I really liked, but that would probably be my starting five. This guy asked a shit ton of questions. This question I can't even answer. I would, but it'll take me all day to answer all these questions. I'm not going to answer that one because that's a loaded, there's 3 questions in one comment, and I'm like, I kind of don't want to spend all day on this. What's good from Australia, bro? What's a dream trade acquisition for the Pacers, and what is a realistic one? A dream trade acquisition is Nikola Jokic. Get me Nikola Jokic. Okay, that's your dream trade acquisition. At least at the current point in time. What is a realistic one? Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is a realistic, I think, trade piece. I mean, only because the salary works. Like, I think the Pacers could put together a package that would really entice the Timberwolves to get you Anthony Edwards. It's just, do you really want 3 max contracts on your books? I don't know, but Anthony Edwards is a realistic trade, by the way. Like, I know the Timberwolves just had a really, really good run, but you look at them and let's see. I'm pretty sure Minnesota, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They finished as the 6th seed. And, yeah, they made the Western Conference Finals this past year. So, yeah, like they made the Western Conference Finals. I mean, I guess maybe it's not realistic because of how far they made it. I just think that, yeah, they're not in a rebuilding stage. Never mind. Anthony Edwards is not realistic. I'm thinking they still like got bounced in the fucking first round. No, they made the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, they're not trading Anthony Edwards. If they were willing to trade Anthony Edwards, though, like that's a guy I would really go after. But a realistic trade, I thought Anthony Edwards was realistic, but I forgot that they're like fucking, their team's actually good now. Dream trade acquisition, Nikola Jokic. Realistic trade acquisition, unfortunately, it's one that already happened. I really wanted Cam Whitmore. Like, a lot of the guys I wanted to get traded got traded. Like, Cam Whitmore got traded to the Washington Wizards, and after watching him ball for the Houston Rockets, I was kind of like, yo, like, this dude's really fucking good and just gets no playtime. But now he plays for the Washington Wizards, and I think they gave up nothing for him. I think they gave up like a 2nd-round pick or some weird shit for Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore is a guy that I was like, yo, we need size at that 3 position and a guy who can get buckets, and Cam Whitmore proved that when he played with Houston. So we need wings too. That's a realistic one though, is Cam Whitmore. I like him, even though it's realistic. Realistic in a sense that, like, yeah, you could trade for him. It's unrealistic in a sense that he was just traded, so you'd have to wait a little bit. But Cam Whitmore is a guy that I wasn't high on in the draft, but after watching him play in the NBA, I was like, yeah, like, that dude could do some shit. Mr. Awesome 7175 asks, what do you do for work? Plus, do you think a better long-term strategy plan for the Pacers is to tank halfway through next season to get a higher lottery pick, and if they draft the best center in the upcoming draft class... Wait, hold on. Through the next season to get a higher pick in the lottery and try to draft the best center in the upcoming draft class with their lottery selection. Okay, so what do I do for work? I'm a land technician at a school district. I work on computers all day. Broken iPads, broken printers, shit like that. That's what I do for work. What do I think is a better long-term strategy plan for the Pacers? Do you think a better long-term strategy plan for the Pacers to tank halfway through next season to get a high? I'm going to be honest. Okay, so I'm going to say this. Do I think... Your question says, do I think a better long-term strategy plan for the Pacers to tank halfway through next season to get a higher lottery pick and then draft the best center in the upcoming draft? Yes, I do. I do think that's a better long-term strategy. However, they're not going to do that. The Pacers are somehow, okay, Herb Simon has convinced himself that the Pacers are a never-tank team, but they're also a never pay the fucking luxury tax team unless your team is a championship contender. And it's very hard for you to do both, okay? It's very hard for you to be a competing team for a championship, but also not be willing to pay the fucking luxury tax. And what that means is you have to try to build through the draft, and you also have to try to find diamonds in the rough in free agency that are not super fucking expensive. It is a very, very hard way to win a championship if you're not willing to go into the luxury tax. So, yes, I think it's a better long-term strategy to tank halfway through next season, but the thing is they're not going to do that, even though they probably will unintentionally do that a little bit. I think the Pacers are going to come out of the gate and they're going to be rough. I think they're going to be a rough team all year. Do I think they will get a lottery pick with their selection? They would have to be really fucking bad. So bad that I think like they would probably like somebody of some significance would have to get injured on the Pacers for them to get a lottery selection. I mean, I am glad they got that 2026 draft pick back with the Pelicans. I think that was a big deal. But yeah, I do think tanking would be a better long-term strategy. But then again, it's like I got to look at who's the best center in the upcoming draft. I haven't even looked at it yet. I haven't even thought to look at next year's draft selection yet because I haven't even seen. I've only seen summer league so far. But yeah, I will say this. I think there's a lot of times the Pacers should tank and they don't. Even though tanking doesn't guarantee you a top 5 or top 3, top 5 pick anymore, it does guarantee you a fucking lottery pick though. And that's the flip side of the coin. I understand nobody wants to pay to watch a team purposely fucking lose. But in situations like this where Halliburton comes back the following year, TJ McConnell's getting older, Siakam's getting older, they're going to have another year on before we see Halliburton touch a floor again. Also, you really don't know how Halliburton's going to come back from that injury. So yeah, like there's a lot of precautionary moves you could make. But yeah. I do think, like, if it were up to me, yeah, they'd probably tank and try to get a good draft pick this upcoming year. Just because that's the way Herb Simon wants to play. He wants to be competitive but doesn't want to pay the luxury tax. But if you're competitive and don't pay the luxury tax, the only way you can build is through the draft. And if you're competitive, you don't get a good draft pick. So it's a formula for fuckery is what it is. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Do you think Tyrese Halliburton returns to his all-star form after he sits out a year? Yes, I do. Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum are both young enough. I even think Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson could bounce back from their injuries. It's going to be less eventful than someone like Halliburton or Jason Tatum, only because their athletic ability is what makes them who they are. As far as like what they can do, like dunking and all this other shit. Halliburton really is kind of like he's got a very basic bag, by the way. Like, I love Halliburton, but his bag is a little basic, all right? And he really does only like step back threes and, maybe a little floater every here and there. I think Halliburton, when he comes back from his injury, will be fine. I think he's got youth on his side. I also think he's not a super crazy athletic player. Like, I'm not shitting on him. You know what I'm saying? I'm not shitting on him in a sense that like he's not athletic. I'm simply saying he's not fucking Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? He's not LeBron. He's not 2010 LeBron. You know what I'm saying? He's not out here banging dunks almost from like, and posterizing people. He plays like a point guard. So that's why I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy worried about it. Yeah, there's always the risk of re-injury, but I think Halliburton will be fine specifically. Blues. This is Blues. I could ask on Discord, but this is fun, and YouTube is prioritizing channels based on engagement now. So here, I'll ask. Do you plan to open up the Discord server to new members soon? Yes, I will. That will come. Before the NBA season starts, like maybe preseason, we're going to open up the Discord again. Who plays more meaningful minutes for the Pacers next year? Jerry's Walker. It's Jarris Walker, okay, not Jerry's Walker. Listen, man, if you're gonna fucking talk about the players, this is a pet peeve of the channel, okay? I don't even want to answer this question now because you spelled Jarris Walker's name wrong. If you are going to talk about the Pacers or a player on the Pacers, all right, please, for the love of God, at least spell their fucking name right, please. You can just Google it. Google it. 2 seconds, all it takes. I just want you to Google their name. I don't care if you pronounce it wrong, but do not spell it wrong, okay? Who plays more meaningful minutes for the Pacers next year? Jarris Walker, Johnny Furphy. Follow-up, should Ben Shepherd be playing? Ben Shepherd had a bad year, okay? Ben Shepherd had a bad year, but I don't think that's going to be the end of him. I do think Johnny Furphy gets more minutes, and I think Jarris Walker is going to be big time this year. Jarris Walker is going to get a lot of burn, and so is Johnny Furphy this year. So be looking out for them. Ben Shepherd will still get burn, by the way. He will. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be as much because Johnny Furphy looks very promising, at least from what we've seen in Summer League. Ben Shepherd will probably Like, experience-wise, yeah, he has more than Johnny Furphy, but Johnny Furphy's going to get some minutes, all right? So, be expecting that. But who plays more meaningful minutes for the Pacers this upcoming year? Jarris Walker, hands down. Out of those 3 players you gave me, Jarris Walker. What are the Pacers lineup look like this season? Okay. That's literally what the question is. That's not me saying it wrong. That's the way the guy typed it. What are the Pacers lineup looking like this season? I don't know who's going to play point. Actually, I do. It's Andrew Nembhard. I lied. Andrew Nembhard, I'm assuming it's going to be... I want to say Ben Mathurin, but I just don't think they're going to let him start. So probably Andrew Nembhard. I'm going to assume they move Aaron Nesmith to the 2 because I think that's the best position for him. At the 3... is going to be probably shock a lot of people, but I think Jarris Walker could start at the 3. At the 4, it'll be Siakam, and at the 5, probably James Wiseman or Jay Huff. I don't see Ijack starting. He's just too undersized. I also don't think Tony Bradley is skilled enough to start. So it's going to be between Jay Huff and James Wiseman at the center position. I feel like they move Aaron Nesmith to the 2. Andrew Nembhard will run the 1. Jarris Walker probably plays the 3, and Pascal Siakam plays the 4. That's where I'm at on that. Just because I feel like Jarris Walker at the 3 maybe gives us the best opportunity to win from a defensive and offensive standpoint, and you're looking for some development out of Jarris Walker as well. I think this is going to be like, I hate to say that Jarris Walker is going to get more opportunity than Ben Mathurin. I would love Ben Mathurin to start, but Aaron Nesmith is too fucking good to let him sit. I'm sorry, Aaron Nesmith is too good not to start. Nembhard is too good not to start. Siakam's too good not to start, and that's 3 of your positions right there. At center, probably Wiseman. If I had to take a guess, day 1, probably Wiseman. Really, the only toss-up is that 3 position, and I think Jarris Walker plays the 3 better than Ben Mathurin does, defensively anyway. Like, he's got the size, and Jarris Walker is a little more of a controlled player than Ben Mathurin is. Love me some Ben Mathurin. I would love Ben Mathurin to start because I think it would do wonders for his game to just have 1 year where he gets to start. But that's what I think the lineup looks like. This is kind of a loaded question. That's a lot. I don't even know if I really want to do this. I'm going to read this first. All right, I can't answer this question, dude. You're asking me to do basketball knowledge that I just can't do. Like, I can't tell you what 3 to 4 players' stat average would be in the aggregate. Like, I'm sorry. I'm a fucking dude on YouTube, dog. I'm not ESPN or fucking Basketball Index. I'm sorry, I'm not. So, unfortunately, I'm ignoring this question because that's a loaded fucking question. Like, there's a bunch of questions in this question, so I'm skipping that one. What do you think the Pacers... Hold on. This is from Harrison. What do you think of the... Hold on. What do you think of the Pacers going for a guy like Bam Adebayo because of his athleticism being good for the fast break offense? With the way Miami is, it wouldn't surprise me if they trade at the deadline to sell. Miami's not trading Bam Adebayo. They're not. Now that they traded for Norman Powell, they still have Tyler Hero. Miami is looking to load up. Miami is looking to put themselves in a position to get back to the NBA Finals because they understand that the East is wide open. Norman Powell was a fucking steal trade for them. Norman Powell is one of the most underrated players in the league, and I'm sure you can find videos on the channel somewhere where I said the Pacers should trade for Norman Powell because they needed a third scorer, and I do remember actually saying that. But, yeah, no, Bam Adebayo's out of the question, and for all the wrong reasons, too, by the way, like with this, Harrison, like, I understand Bam Adebayo would be good for the fast break offense, but we need a rebounder, man. We need a rebounder, a guy that plays defense, a guy that's not afraid to get physical, and yeah, Bam Adebayo fits that bill, but it's just the idea. Bam Adebayo is kind of the dude in Miami right now. It's like him, Tyler Hero, and probably Norman Powell. Now they're looking to trade Terry Rozier, so I mean, it would be cool to get Bam Adebayo, but that's not likely. So, if you happen to run into Dante Jones in the grocery store and he offers you a handshake, do you accept? No. No, I've seen the video. And no, I'm not. That's not family friendly what he was doing in front of that elevator, all right? And then smeared it on the wall. Like, nah, bro. This is from Mosen, 9349. Okay, my serious question is, in the crazy hypothetical situation, the Pacers make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, and are very competitive or win, either with this current roster, what happens next? In this scenario, both Mathurin and Nembhard are great and are borderline all-stars. Is trading Halliburton on the table? If a sign-and trade of Mathurin is preferable, what player would be targeted, assuming Mathurin gets around $30 million a year? I don't even know. I don't think there's any world in which the Pacers give up on Tyrese Halliburton. I'm sorry, I just don't. Even if what you say is true, like we make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals and, the NBA Finals are very competitive and we win with either current roster, what happens next? If we were to win with this roster, it'd be the greatest ring ever won in championship history, but I still don't think they move on from Halliburton. They have too much money wrapped up in Halliburton, and it's very hard to trade Halliburton as well at this point. When you give guys max contracts, they become very hard to trade for. But if a sign and trade is on the table for Mathurin, I don't even know. At $30 million a year doesn't get you much in the NBA anymore, boys. Sorry. If you wanna be in the ballpark of somebody that is like worth getting into, if you're paying Mathurin $30 million a year, you got to look in the ballpark of $50 million. You'd probably have to give up Mathurin and Obi Toppin to even get into the conversation of trading for a guy that's worth it at that point. I think Mathurin, I don't know. Mathurin, I like Mathurin, but I don't know if Mathurin's ever going to become the guy that we expect him to. I think this is the year to see that, and I just feel like the front office is going to fuck that up, and they're going to go with, because Herb Simon's going to want to win instead of developing talent, because that's the way he fucking is, even though he doesn't want to pay the luxury tax. Like, I don't understand how you want to have a winning team and not pay for it. Like, that to me doesn't make any fucking sense. But Mathurin is a guy that I think, given the Mathurin, the one thing that scares me about Benedict Mathurin is he's on the Pacers. He's like our sixth man. He's really great with TJ McConnell. So is Obi Toppin. But I worry that the Pacers trade Benedict Mathurin to a team that needs a number one option, or maybe a team that's struggling and just wants a guy like a project player, and we trade Mathurin to them for something. And like Michael Porter, like for example, this trade that happened this summer, Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, right? Michael Porter Jr. went to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson, and now Cam Johnson plays for the Denver Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. in Brooklyn will probably go fucking crazy. Like, I'm just gonna tell you right, like, I've watched this boy play ball in high school, okay? Michael Porter Jr. was a fucking savage in high school. He's gonna get an opportunity in Brooklyn that he was never gonna have in Denver. And that's what I worry about with Benedict Mathurin. I worry that if we trade Benedict Mathurin to anybody, it's gonna be to a team like Utah, or a team like, I don't know, the Wizards or Charlotte, or like just a team that's not fucking playing well, or Sacramento, right? A team that like just needs to find their future somewhere. If we trade Benedict Mathurin to one of them, he just becomes this amazing fucking player. That's what I worry about. Like even the Chicago Bulls are like an option that it's like, if you traded Benedict Mathurin to them and they were just like, here, Ben, do what you want. I feel like Ben would become a 25-point, he would easily become a 20-plus point per game scorer. And that's my problem with Mathurin. It's like, I understand the front office doesn't trust him, or Rick doesn't trust him, and maybe the front office does want Mathurin to play more. It's just they don't trust him enough to give him the reins, and he's never going to get the reins so long as Halliburton and Siakam are in town. So I'm just worried that, like, we're going to give up on Mathurin and trade him somewhere, and we're going to look back on this, and he's going to become fucking amazing, and we're going to be like, yeah, we had that. Like, with Kawhi Leonard, same thing. We had Kawhi Leonard, we drafted him and traded him for fucking George Hill. So That's what I worry about, is a missed opportunity on Mathurin by not letting him ball out this season. That's my problem with it. I understand, like, I answered the starting lineup question, was like, yeah, Jarris Walker will probably start, just because of the size and what he can do defensively. But if we could, like, if Mathurin could start at the 2 position some way, not going to happen over Aaron Nesmith, I don't think, but if it could happen, maybe you have a starting lineup of Andrew Nemhard, Benedict Mathurin, Aaron Nesmith, Siakam, and Jay Huff or James Wiseman. That's not the end of the world, but the problem is, even in that situation, I don't know if Nemhard is going to be a pass-first point guard and let Ben Mathurin do his thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it would have to be planned. It would Rick Carlisle would have to game plan for that, where like every fucking game, your 2 go-to guys are going to be Ben Mathurin and Pascal Siakam, and I don't give a fuck if you like it or not. Like, that would have to be Rick Carlisle's attitude to get Benedict Mathurin to be to the level that we want him to be at, and I just don't think Rick is going to do that. As much as I wish he would, I just don't think that's going to happen. So, realistically, given current circumstances, when do the Pacers make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals again or beyond? I really want to see Indy win a title in my lifetime. You will probably see Indy win a title in your lifetime. When do they get back to the Eastern Conference Finals again? Not for another 4 years. If you want me to be brutally honest with you, yeah, 3 or 4 years, I think. Now that Halliburton's injured, that really kind of fucks up our championship window. Then when he comes back, there's going to be an adaptation period. Guys are going to be a little bit older. I'm sure the roster will not be the same. We still don't know who's going to be the center in 3 to 4 years. We don't know what the health is going to be, what guys are still going to be here, what guys are not going to be here. So that's a hard question to answer, but yeah, I think you got another 3 to 4 years before you see us in the Eastern Conference Finals again. Just saying. What's up, bro? This is, that was by Keith. Keith Alfarino 99506. But this is Omar Al-Sergir. I'm pretty sure I said that shit wrong, but 6348 says, "What's up, bro? Does it make any sense what the Clippers are doing right now by filling their team with a bunch of very old players?" It does, but it doesn't. Like Chris Paul, he's just a veteran. The Bradley Beal thing, don't know how that's gonna work. I understand why they picked up Bradley Beal, but at the same time, it's like, you got Harden and Kawhi already. Like, is Bradley Beal just is he just the temporary fill-in because Kawhi Leonard doesn't play back-to-backs anymore? Like, I get it, but I don't. It gives you a little more stability, but, like, Brook Lopez is fucking old, too. Like, they signed Brook Lopez. Brolo is old and he's still good, but he's not what he used to be. I don't know. It makes sense, but it doesn't. Really, the Clippers should be looking for youth, but they don't have any draft picks. So, because of the Paul George trade and shit. So, it's just kind of like they're between a rock and a hard place, and they're trying to find talent wherever they can find it, and they're trying to put something competitive together. Just the Clippers are a waste of fucking time, if I'm being honest with you. I feel like their roster is just a waste at this point. And Grimace asked the question that I already answered. So, yeah, that's the first part. Let's go to, what are we working on here? God, almost an hour? Holy shit. All right, let's go to the posts. This one's a lot shorter. There's not a lot of questions on this. So, how far do you think the Pacers could have gone if Jonathan Bender was never injured and he developed into what he could have been? Jonathan Bender never played in college. Jonathan Bender was pretty much a high school phenom, McDonald's All-American, balled out, I think, in the McDonald's All-American game. The problem is, not a lot of guys transition from high school to the NBA and are good at it. You have to be fucking special to be really good at it, and not a lot of guys pan out. Jonathan Bender was a guy that I didn't know a whole hell of a lot about. Like, you have to understand, when Jonathan Bender entered the fucking NBA, I was like, 1999, I was like 5 or 6 years old, bro. Like, hate to break it to you, but I don't know a whole hell of a lot about Jonathan Bender. But I don't know. If he could have been that guy, I don't know if it changes, like, a shit ton. Because he Yeah, he wasn't even in like the Ron Artest. He wasn't in the Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, stack team. So I'm just like, I don't really know. Like, to be honest with you, how far would the Pacers have gone if he was never injured? I don't know. Maybe further than. See, like I said, it's a loaded question. There's a lot of, you're playing what ifs at this point, and unfortunately, I don't know that much about them. This is before I was even a Pacers fan. So, all I can say is I do know Jonathan Bender was a monster in high school. It was a McDonald's All-American, had, I think, a 31-point McDonald's All-American game, and then went to the NBA and really, got injured and just never became the guy people expected him to. So, but if he did, sure, he probably would have been a great player. How far would the Pacers have gone? Probably would have been a playoff team. Maybe they go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know. I know Reggie was still on the team at that point. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. What's your ideal scenario for the Pacers next offseason and the start of the 26-27 season? This is by Chaotic Creeper 04. What also do you think Mathurin's peak could be in general and on this squad? His best play style should I feel. Do you think he could be? Okay, so I'm just because this question's kind of loaded. Okay, so what's my ideal scenario for the Pacers next offseason and the start of the 26-27 season? Hopefully they get a center. That's my first thing, like a solidified center. I hope Benedict Mathurin does become a 20-plus point per game scorer, like that we know he can be. Very unlikely, but I think there's a glimmer of hope for it. I'm only giving it like a 20% chance that it actually happens because Rick Carlisle is probably going to pull his leash in a lot. Honestly, Ben Mathurin, I think, just needs to work on being a better catch-and-shoot guy. That's what I would ask. Because Halliburton, if he has Halliburton around, Halliburton's going to get him the ball. We play a really, kind of let Hallie cook and see what comes of it type of offense. You have Siakam who does his post work and stuff like that, but they're max contract players. Ben Mathurin's not. So, obviously, Hallie and Siakam are going to get way more leeway than Ben Mathurin will. Now, if Ben Mathurin becomes a 20-point per game scorer, we can have that conversation, but I just think it's unlikely. Do we know he can be a 20-point per game scorer? Yeah, in the right situation, but right now we are not the right situation. Not for Ben Mathurin. Do I think his day will come? Maybe. I know we're all waiting on it, but sometimes you get tired of waiting. That's all I'm going to say. What do you think the Pacers lineups will look like? Okay, I've already answered that question by somebody else. What do you think of Frank Vogel during his time as head coach with the Pacers? I always thought it was weird that aside from the bubble success, he didn't keep a job for more than 3 years at a time. The NBA changed. That's what happened with Frank Vogel. I answered this earlier. I think Frank Vogel is a great coach. I think he's my favorite coach that the Pacers have ever had. It's just the idea the NBA went in a different direction. A lot of people don't understand Frank Vogel runs a half-court offense that plays defense, okay? And yeah, he had success in the bubble doing that with the Lakers. But you have to understand that the NBA is a fast-break, up-tempo league. And Frank Vogel's offense is not that. It's all half-court screens, screen and rolls, screen and pops, get a post up here, get a jump shot here, whoever the fuck is open, right? It looks to create mismatches. That's like old school ball, and a lot of teams in the league don't play that anymore. I think Frank Vogel's a great coach. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in the league. I don't think he gets a fair shake often. I feel like Frank Vogel is a guy, I think Frank Vogel even coached in Phoenix, and after they kind of just let him go, and I'm just I wish Frank Vogel would come back to the Pacers, because I think our defense would be fucking phenomenal with Frank Vogel as a defensive coach. I wish he was an assistant coach on the bench. I love Frank Vogel. Paul George loves Frank Vogel. Okay, I think Frank Vogel was one of the guys that I know Paul George really liked, and I think him being around really affected how long he was in Indiana. But I love Frank Vogel. Don't ever question my love for Frank Vogel. I think that man showed us 2 Eastern Conference Finals trips that we've never been to since. You know, Frank Vogel, like Lance Stevenson and everything. It just, he put together a fucking squad of goons out of guys that we were just like, okay, like, let's see how this works. And he assembled a squad of fucking goons because everybody bought in. And when you have when you have a coach like Frank Vogel that can get guys to buy in, and that's the result you get, like, I'm sorry, I think coaches in the NBA don't get a fair shake. I don't think Frank Vogel got a fair shake. And I think if you're going to hire a guy like Frank Vogel, you need to give him players and just let him do his fucking job. Don't tell him, oh, you need to run this offense. You need to do this. You need to do that. No. Let him build a fucking team. Like, I'm not even kidding. Because that's kind of what Frank Vogel got to do with Indiana. You know, they just gave him players and said, here, do what you think you can do with this. And ended up in 2 Eastern Conference Finals runs. That's all I'm saying. Will Hallie be the same player? Will we need him to be with development of Nembhard and who the fuck is CO? Will we need him to be with development of Nembhard and come? Oh, okay. Yes, I already answered this. Hallie will be the same player. Will we need him to? Will we need him to be there to develop Nembhard and company? Probably not. I actually think it's a good thing that they don't have Halliburton for a year because we get to see what we got, man. Like that's the cool thing about this. Like, I know it sucks to say that there's anything cool about like a potential career-ending injury to a franchise player, but Halliburton being injured gives us a chance to really see what we got. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gives us a chance to see how good Nembhard can really be. Like, we're going to learn so much about the team this year, man, that, like, I know a lot of people are worried about stupid shit. Everyone's worried about playoffs, and they're worried about, like, winning a fucking championship and getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals. That shit's not going to happen for a while. People need to get that out of their fucking heads right now, okay? You got at least a year before we even see that again. And then even when Halliburton comes back, okay, there's going to be an adaptation period there. There's at least a year and a half before we even get to have this conversation of being back in the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. That's where I'm putting it. If we overperform, we overperform. Fine. But my expectations for the Pacers right now are just put our young players out there and let's just see what we got. You know, like the one benefit of this is we get to see how Nembhard's going to run point all year. We get to see how he, you know, hopefully he cuts down on the turnovers. Hopefully he learns better ball control, you know, because Nembhard is kind of a turnover machine. We get to see that. We get to see what Jarris Walker can really do. Jarris Walker, Johnny Furphy. We're going to get to see what Ben Shepherd, you know, like Jay Huff and James Wiseman and all these other guys. We're going to get to see if Benedict Mathurin really is that guy. Because even though, like, Benedict Mathurin might not get the consistent minutes he needs, there are going to be moments where it's like, yeah, you know what? Let's just... There are going to be games this year where Rick Carlisle looks at Ben Mathurin and says, do what the fuck you want this game. It's going to happen. You have no better opportunity than now to do it. You know? Especially in a contract year, like, they're going to put Ben Mathurin out there and be like, yo, show us what you got. Like, maybe not all the time, because I know, like I said, Rick Carlisle doesn't really trust Ben Mathurin, but the front office going to tell him. The front office going to tell Rick. They're going to be like, yo, listen, we need to see if Benedict Mathurin is worth keeping around. I think he is, but they're also going to be like, how much do we think Ben Mathurin is worth? And if they keep him on the bench, he's probably not going to get paid a whole hell of a lot. But I can tell you right now, I know for a fact Chad Buchanan and Kevin Pritchard are going to look at Ben Mathurin and tell Rick, like, hey, I want more Ben Mathurin this year. He doesn't have to be the whole show, but I do want a couple games where it's like, let me see what Young Bolt's got. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what's going to happen this year. I think you're going to see a lot of young guys get a whole hell lot of, like, development opportunity this year that you normally otherwise wouldn't. Vladrack asks, what is your skill level in APA 8-ball and 9-ball? Do you think you would post a video of league play? Okay, so this is finally a personal question. I am a skill level 3 in APA 8-ball, but I fluctuate between a 3 and a 4. The best way I can describe this to you is that I am a skill level 3, But if I play another skill level 3, I generally kick their ass. And I'm not being cocky. That's just what it is. Every time I play a skill level 3, another skill level 3, I generally fuck them up. I'm a skill level 4, I think, all day. My teammates, my team captain would tell you I'm a skill level 4 all day. Do I think I would post a video of league play? No, because people in my league are very old. They're very camera shy. A lot of them don't like being on camera. Nobody's ever recorded it. Like, my area is very, I don't know how to say it, old school in a way. And a lot of the older guys in my league, because it's a lot of older guys, a lot of them are not cool with being recorded and playing. Because the thing is, right, it's a New Yorker thing, I almost think. Like, just like people are afraid to fuck up and put it on camera. And like, I've even asked, because I've thought about this before, and I asked my team captain about it, and he was like, nah, he's like, guys are not going to be cool with that, because like, if you kick their ass and then put it on the internet, like, guys are not cool with that, unfortunately. And I don't want any problems, man. Like, I enjoy playing in the APA. I think it's a fun time. If you've never played pool in the APA, I highly recommend it. It's like a beer league, pool league. But there are times where, like, shit gets a little heated. Like, I've gone back and forth with a couple people some nights where, you know, shit like that, I don't really want it on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have a disagreement with a guy and I kick his ass, like, I don't know, I as cool as it would be to post it, at the same time I'd feel bad because I know they're good people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to answer that question, because I would love to. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to, but a lot of the guys in my league are not cool with it. And because there was, like, I did the first APA team I ever played for, there was this girl that would always record our matches with her phone. And it made people really, really uncomfortable. Like, there are clips of me playing. Like, there's one clip of me actually winning a match, like running out and winning a match, that I have on like Facebook or something. But it's just the idea, like, even then, like, when people had their cell phones out and like recording the match and everything, unless you're recording the table to watch a hit on a ball, like to make sure you hit your ball first, or it's not a double kiss or whatever, because there are rules to this. Outside of that, nobody wants you recording. Like, hate to break it to you. Like, yeah, I know you're going to end up, like, if you end up going to APA, Vegas, or even regionals, they record you. You end up on a TV screen somewhere or on a live stream. If that ever happens, I promise I'll share it with you guys, okay? Like, if my team goes to regionals and they stream it and I can find where the stream is and they give it to me or whatever, I will post it on my Facebook for you. The problem is this past year it didn't have any audio, so you might just get a video of me playing with no audio. But if it ever happens that we go to regionals, or I go to the Northeast Challenge, or I play in a tournament or whatever, I will post the video for you guys. But it's just the idea, in my personal hometown league, people don't like people recording. So, unless you have a legitimate reason to be recording. So, tell me what you guys think about this down below. It's working on an hour. This went a lot longer than I anticipated it would. But tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fastbreak Report. And I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.